So the same thing kind of always happens when a new phone is announced. The media gets the device ahead of time, maybe a couple days, a couple weeks if we're lucky, and we get to use it while we're preparing our review. Then the date and time of the press embargo arrives, the embargo lifts, everybody posts their review at once, and it is a giant, big frenzy of activity. There's commenters going nuts and defenders and attackers, and it's just a huge explosion for about a day. And then everything disappears. I mean, sure, there's follow-up coverage and stuff as people find bugs, people have other stuff to say about the devices, they wear them in over the course of a day or so, but really, nobody ever goes back and revisits these devices after that initial blast of review to see how they feel after a couple weeks.
So let's do something about it. Let's have a look at a device when it's a couple of weeks after release and not shiny and new anymore. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow.com. This is the HTC One X, and this is episode 4 of After the Buzz. My first ever Pocket PC was made by HTC, even though it was branded the Compact iPad back in 2002. The design was so good and so well thought out that it became the reason why most of the devices I've owned ever since have been made by HTC. A decade later, I was fortunate to be in the audience when Peter Chow announced their new focus with the One series back at MWC 2012. I remember liking what they announced and even what I felt when I held the One X for the first time in the press booth, but a lot of what Chow claimed in the keynote felt unfinished in the demo units we used. We also got that same feeling in our review units since the device looked great, but the performance didn't live up to the quad-core processor it boasted. After almost a month of using the One X as my daily driver, we're back with episode 4 of After the Buzz to answer the question that everybody's asking. Is it still worth to buy a One X after a couple of weeks of usage? So let's talk about it. When it comes to hardware, it's tough for me to recommend any other smartphone. HTC's design crew did a great job in making this one of the most iconic smartphone designs of the year. I'll admit I was initially dismayed by their use of polycarbonate instead of the metallic finish that they gave to the One S, but once you hold it in your hand, everything starts making sense. The device feels at times like a contradiction, since it's just as big as the HTC Titan, but it feels a lot smaller and lighter in the hand, and it even passes our well-instituted pocket test with flying colors. All the machining and precision used into manufacturing this phone will do a good job in making you look good when showing it off, no matter what device your buddy has. Now that doesn't change the fact that it's a big device that wasn't designed for one-handed usability, but then again, so are the rest of the flagship Android smartphones in the market. I got the gray model out of the fact that the white variant is good at picking up dirt from your hands, but that was a big mistake. This one is also great at picking up hand oils and becoming greasy all around, so I guess you'll just have to pick your poison. The only thing I don't like about the design is HTC's departure from the single unibody back that we saw with the Titan and with the Sensation, where all you had to do was replace the battery cover to make it look like new again if you dented it. Make sure you either buy a good case or simply don't drop the One X, as there are no visible screws in the housing if you want to fix it yourself later on. I recommend getting a good TPU case to cover the phone, but make sure that it somehow protects the camera lens, as it'll show minor scratches in just a couple of days of use. Now the trick with these TPU cases is that you clean up the phone before using the case. Dirt and lint will not scratch the phone, but the problem is that your hand oils will become a permanent coating with the phone if you slip it into the case and leave it there for a couple of days without cleaning it up, so make sure you do that. Now let's talk about software. Sense 4.0 has a ton of things to praise and a lot of things to complain about. I'll admit it's one of the most elegant and polished user interfaces in the Android ecosystem, and it does a great job in matching with the phone's elegant design, but sadly at a price you can't easily switch off. If we start with the good stuff, the email application is second to none. Great use of the screen real estate with intuitive filters that make your way around quite simple and productive. Sense also has a great selection of widgets that lots of manufacturers are still struggling to replicate. The fact that contact cards filter the person's social network, email activity, feeds, and everything you care about also raises the bar when compared to similar competing devices. Small little details like the Ring lock screen and the different filters in the app tray make the user interface unlike any other. Sadly, as much of a fan as I am of HTC Sense, the problem that everybody has with it is how it slows down the device. Sense 4 is far better when it comes to how it performs when compared to the past iterations we had, but it's still not as fluid as the stock ice cream sandwich experience that it plans to improve upon. It packs a quad-core processor that benchmarks better than almost every phone in the market, but it feels no faster than any dual-core phone in day-to-day use. Things like the multitasking UI look nice and unique, but if I had a choice between quad-core speed or flashy eye candy, I know a lot of you would agree with me in sticking to the basics. The fact that there's always a persistent menu button covering a good portion of the pixels just makes you wonder if the UI was thought out enough. All these features made sense when Android didn't look as cool back in the Froyo days, but things are very different with Ice Cream Sandwich, and what's broken shouldn't have been fixed unless HTC was capable of improving it. Now this comes from a power user standpoint. Many of you won't mind that the device takes one more second to load a folder or to launch the app tray. Some of you don't even like the Tronish and bluish design that stock Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean brings, so if you're looking for a device that will probably bring you more out of the box and you don't need to be installing stuff, you get the best widgets and everything, Sense 4.0 is definitely for you. So let's talk about the rest of the user experience. The One X, being one of the top smartphones in the market, delivers in a lot of places it should. The camera, for example, is one of its high points. It's extremely quick to launch, and the UI allows for quick video recording and even taking photos while you're filming, which is really awesome. The resulting photos are, in simple terms, very good, but you'd have to get a Galaxy S3 or an iPhone 4S if you want the perfect camera on a smartphone. I will praise its low light performance when using the flash though, as I find it far superior to any competing device so far. Video recording is also very good, where 1080p does a similar job to any mid-tiered consumer camcorder you no longer need to buy. Now what makes the photos look even better than they really are is the Super LCD 2 powering the display. I've yet to find a better screen on any smartphone in the market, and I'm really not exaggerating. Great viewing angles, great visibility in direct sunlight, and it just seems like if everything was painted on the screen. It's just hard to go back to a Super AMOLED pen-tile display after using the One X for more than a day. As a phone, it provides great call quality and great data speeds over HSPA Plus and Wi-Fi, and I haven't had any dropped calls to complain about. Battery life will get you through the day, but it depends on your usage. If you're a heavy gamer, you'll notice that the back of the phone is prone to heating and drops your battery life significantly once you start playing. Word of advice, leave the hardcore stuff for good room temperature unless you want to see your battery meter take a quick dive. Speaking of gaming, the One X is one of the benchmarks to beat when it comes to performance. Sadly, Tegra 3 brings a feature you'll all join me in hating. See, none of the GameLoft games that I've already purchased on the Play Store are compatible with it. You can't even install them. EA games do work, but if you want to get the Tegra 3 punch-in graphics, you'll have to buy an extra copy from the Tegra Zone, which is quite unfortunate. Your only other option is to get the AT&T Snapdragon S4 variant of the One X, which is the One XL, but you'll lose 16GB of storage, and remember, there's no expandable storage here. Now, the keyboard is something that I do recommend you replace when you pull the phone out of the box, no exceptions. For some reason, the past HTC Sense keyboards were actually good when it came to text prediction. Not sure what's wrong with this one. As much as it does add swipe functionality, its size is so big that it makes finger travel uncomfortable, or even straining to the rest of your fingers to keep the phone in place while you're trying to type. My best advice to you is to get SwiftKey or any other keyboard substitute that's smaller and handles prediction a lot better. Another sad reality of the One X in year 2012 is the lack of a voice assistant. Many of you may not care about this feature, but a lot of us that come from Siri and S-Voice do. It's sad to know that you won't get the feature on a device that's in the same price range as other devices that do include it. So, bottom line, would I still recommend that you get a One X after a couple of months of use? This is a tough one now that the Galaxy S3 is in the market at a similar price with a faster quad-core Exynos processor, expandable storage, and a replaceable battery. I still feel that the One X has a better design, a better screen, and believe it or not, a better user interface when compared to the Nature UX in the Galaxy S3. Let's just say the One X will serve both regular consumers and non-demanding power users just fine, and the Galaxy S3 is more of a device I'd recommend for the most demanding of power users. I was one of those that chose the One X over the Galaxy S3 because the whole package suited me fine, but your mileage may vary. Believe it or not, the only thing that this device needs to go from good to great is Jelly Bean. It would bring performance where it should be, and a voice assistant needs will be solved by the new voice search and Google Now. Now, HTC has been relatively good at bringing updates to their phones, but the longer they take, the more the Galaxy S3 gets sold. This has been Jaime with Pocketnow.com. Thanks for joining me in episode 4 of After the Buzz. Be sure to share your experiences with the One X in the comments down below, and also leave us a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Thanks for watching.